is fancy. And Vallejo, we have a brother Justin. That's wonderful. So in a village, on a Sunday morning, a village in Africa, suddenly people heard a loud voice of a child screaming, "Mama Nakuva, Mama Nakuva. Mother, I am dying. Mother, I'm dying." So of course everybody in an uproar. They run to see what's happening. It's a child being murdered. So as they get there, imagine what they see. A child standing in a bucket of water, and the mother just scrubbing the child, trying to get the child as clean as possible. And even though the child is struggling vehemently, the mother just continued until the child was completely clean. And isn't it true that people in general put forth extra effort to be physically clean? Most people appreciate also clean surroundings. Sometimes you probably experienced it. You're in a neighborhood, in a ministry, and you see houses really nice looking and front lawns nicely trimmed, and it really makes you feel good, right? How pretty it is. Or as we experienced a couple of weeks ago, we were on a cruise in the Caribbean, and what I appreciated most, I don't know about the rest of my family, but the waters. I mean, I've never seen water that blue before. Just deep blue. And the closer you get to the shores, even more clear. You can even see marine life straight through the water. Just beautiful to see. And our Creator Jehovah God made the earth with clean, unspoiled natural beauty. And what it tells us about Him is that He appreciates a clean earth. And that's why we do as well. But have you noticed the trend, though, towards more and more uncleanness and more and more pollution? Let me read you a report. It's more like an excerpt out of a report. And this is what it says about rivers in Europe. It says, Europe's rivers that flow into the North Sea transport paint, toothpaste whiteners, toxic waste, and manure in such quantities that the Dutch Institute for the Investigation of Fishery now labels the North Sea flatfish as unfit to be eaten. It says surveys show that 40% of the flounder from shallow areas have skin disease and cancerous tumors. And that's only one report, only one area in the world. So we mentioned Jehovah loves clean beauty, clean area. That's how He created the earth. But on the contrary, Jehovah hates uncleanness and disorder. They're contrary, really, to His ways, and they're a source of irritation to us. Just as it irritates us too when we see people, ruining clean, nice areas. It's the same way it irritates Jehovah God. But for that reason, Jehovah has promised to bring a new world that will be righteous, clean, and orderly. Let me invite you, first scripture, to turn with me to 2 Peter. And let's read verse 13, chapter 3, verse 13. 2 Peter chapter 3, I will read verse 13. And we see Jehovah has already decided to bring changes. In verse 13 it says, "But there are new heavens and a new earth that we are awaiting according to His promise, and in these righteousness is to dwell." So the old heavens and earth, the corrupt human governments, the earthly society that's under their control, they will be gone. They will be replaced by a new government of Jehovah's choosing, a new earthly society. There will be good men who will care for matters here on the earth, and everything will be directed by Jesus Christ and the 144,000 co-rulers. No more corrupt organizations here on the earth. But now here's the point, though. If we want to benefit from those promises that Jehovah God has made, what do we have to do? How do we demonstrate that we want to live under clean surroundings that Jehovah will bring? That's what we will talk about in the next few minutes. What areas do we have to look at in our lives? What has Jehovah God provided for us so that we can conform to his standards? For one thing, Jehovah gave laws to Israel. And the laws he gave to Israel was a set of laws. The reason why Jehovah gave them those laws were so that they could be in outstanding physical cleanness. It helped to protect them from disease. He gave them specific regulations on how they were supposed to handle dead bodies, how they were supposed to dispose of dead bodies. They needed to frequently bathe. They were supposed to wash their clothes, which animals were clean to them, which ones were not. And the reason why is because Jehovah is a clean God. They represented him, so they too had to be physically clean. Now, we Jehovah's people today as well, right? We represent the clean God. So we too must be concerned when it comes to maintaining physical cleanness. This includes keeping our body clean, of course. Parents should start early in teaching their children the importance and the value of keeping physically clean. When it comes to our homes, the Bible shows that especially our wives in particular have the responsibility of keeping the homes clean. And why do we say that? Turn to Titus chapter 2. Titus chapter 2, verse 4 and 5. So it says, older women, it speaks of older women counseling younger women, it says so that they may advise the younger women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be sound in mind, chaste, and then it says, working at home. The footnote says, are caring for their homes. And then it continues to say, to be good, subjecting themselves to their own husbands, so that the word of God may not to be spoken of abusively. And keep that in mind. The reason why wives have to make sure that the house is kept clean is because there is a possibility, see, that reproach can be brought on Jehovah's name. But are wives the only ones responsible for a clean home? Don't you think that it would be unloving for husbands and children to be sloppy and forcing the wife to constantly be cleaning and picking up after them? Can you imagine a husband coming home and you can follow him? He just leaves a trail behind for the shoes and the socks and the pants and the shirt, and the wife just coming up after him and picking up everything. Would that be loving? Or how about a child who maybe is instructed to clean the room, and within 5 minutes they're done, but then the instruction they give the parent, don't look under the bed, don't open the closet. Because they expect the mother or the wife to be doing that for them, see? The Bible doesn't require wives to be fanatical, though. Can you imagine a wife who is following the husband or the children everywhere? The moment they pick up a glass, they're wiping it up, make sure there's no circle. That's not what the point is. They want to be balanced and need to put things in perspective. But as we mentioned, the success or failure when it comes to wife maintaining a clean home can reflect on God's word and on Jehovah God himself. Our house, this statement was made at one point, our house doesn't need to be the biggest on the block, doesn't have to be the prettiest, it doesn't have to be the most ostentatious house, but it must be the cleanest because we represent Jehovah God, and He is a clean God. How about our automobiles? Especially if we use it in the ministry. It should be kept clean as well, neat, clean throughout. Sometimes it may necessitate that we run it quickly through a car wash, and especially elders and ministerial servants have to set the example in this regard. See, we represent a clean God, so in all aspects of our lives, see, we want to demonstrate that. How about the Kingdom Hall? It's a privilege to have a share in cleaning the Kingdom Hall. And again, it doesn't have to be the biggest building on the block, but it doesn't have to be the prettiest, but it has to be the cleanest. And so we all have an opportunity or a privilege to have a share in maintaining that. So whenever you check the board, right, and you see your group is on there, what's your reaction? Oh, our group again? Or is it, yeah, we get to clean the Kingdom Hall again? See, that's how we should view it, because it's a privilege to have a share in maintaining Jehovah's house. And also, when we take care in these matters, it shows that we have that desire to live in a cleansed spirit, but also others take note of that. It's a statement, I guess, that was made at a convention. There was a convention held at the Manchester City Football Ground in Great Britain, and this is a comment that one of the staff members made. He said, "It's lovely to have you back to give the place a good clean. I hope that all your good work won't be undone by the crowds at the rock concert next week." Isn't that good to hear? See that we're so different from others. We clean up before and after ourselves. In Spain, Valencia, Spain, a stadium official exclaimed, your cleanliness is unbelievable. He says, if our club wasn't in so much need of funds, we would let you use the stadium free of charge. All because we represent a clean God, and we demonstrate that, see, by being clean people as well. And it brings praise not only to us, but to our clean God, Jehovah God. So by maintaining these high standards, we are developing a pattern of cleanness that will fit in the new world that Jehovah God has promised us. But you know, there are other types of cleanness, or another type of cleanness, which is moral cleanness, as important as physical cleanness. Some people live in beautiful surroundings, as we mentioned earlier, but there are other things that trouble them. For instance, there's distrust. They may be worried about crime in their neighborhoods, loneliness, depression, and they just don't enjoy life, even though they live in physical, clean surroundings. Who does that remind you of? Which Bible character who lived in pretty clean surroundings, and yet he was troubled by the people around him? If you think about Lot, that's exactly who it was. If you take your Bibles, turn to Genesis chapter 13, and we'll read verse 10. Genesis 13, verse 10. It says, so Lot raised his eyes and saw that the whole district of the Jordan was a well-watered region before Jehovah destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of Jehovah, like the land of Egypt, as far as Zoar. So Lot originally moved there because of the area's beauty, right? It was there was a potential for material prosperity. The land was just beautiful. It says just like the Garden of Eden, the paradise. But Lot really couldn't enjoy the beauty, could he? Because of the moral badness of his neighbors there in Sodom. He was being tormented by it. In 2 Peter chapter 2, if you turn there as well. Chapter 2, verse 7 and 8. Notice what Peter says about how Lot felt about his surroundings. It says in 7, and he rescued righteous Lot, who was greatly distressed by the brazen conduct of the lawless people. For day after day that righteous man was tormenting his righteous soul over the lawless deeds that he saw and heard while dwelling among them. In the footnote, the Greek word, another footnote, but the Greek word used there for brazen conduct has to do with acts that display brazen disrespect, even contempt for authority, for laws and standards. And it says, not wrong conduct of a minor nature. According to Jude 7, they indulge in gross sexual immorality, unnatural fleshly desires. And you recall the account, right, when you had the crowd of people at Lot's door demanding to have unnatural relations with his guests. That's the atmosphere or the surroundings that Lot was living in. And when you think about it, we are similarly distressed, right, over the situation that surrounds us today, the growing moral badness that we see today. Notice the promise from Jehovah, though, in 2 Peter chapter 3. Earlier we read verse 13. Let's do 7 and 10 as well. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. It says, but by the same word, the heavens and the earth that now exist are reserved for fire and are being kept until the day of judgment and of destruction of the ungodly people. And then verse 10, but Jehovah's day will come as a thief, in which the heavens will pass away with a roar, but the elements being intensely hot will be dissolved, and the earth and the works in it will be exposed. And the 13, we read that earlier, but there are new heavens and a new earth that we are awaiting according to his promise, and in these righteousness is to dwell. The heavens, the human rule over the ungodly society, and the earth of mankind that is alienated from Jehovah God will be replaced. And Jehovah God will be replaced by a righteous government ruled by his Son, Jesus Christ, and the 144,000. The new earth will be morally clean and at peace. And that's what we're looking for or forward to. See, that's what we don't see today, right? We're being tormented by the wicked conditions that exist in the world today. I mean, you can't watch the news nowadays anymore and you see things that really distress you, right? Every single day. And that's not what Jehovah has in store for us. That's not what he had planned for us. That's not what he wanted when he created the earth. So he has decided to replace it with a righteous new world. And that's what we're looking forward to. The Bible promises really the removal of the present human rulership and wicked human society. Do you agree that this current unclean spirit of the world is not in accord with Jehovah God? Being out of harmony with the clean God that we're worshiping, it needs to be eliminated. But now, what does it mean for us who want to benefit from those promises of a new world? If you turn to John chapter 17, John chapter 17, and then we read verse 16. So that's okay. Find it here. sometimes these newer Bibles. 17 verse 16. So here Jesus Christ in prayer to his Father says about his followers, they are no part of the world, just as I am no part of the world. So the apostles and other disciples they lived in a human society back then. It was ruled by Satan, the devil. But as Jesus prayed, they had to remain separate from it and its badness. And they had to apply the direction that they were receiving from Jesus Christ and through God's word, so that they could maintain a separateness from that wicked society that they lived in. So we may be determined as well, or we want to be determined to keep separate from the world today. But a lot of times we're only worried about larger issues, right? Such as maybe neutrality or religious holidays. Those things are bigger issue. Immorality, we strive to stay away from it completely. But what about smaller things? Is it possible that we can be influenced by the ways of the world without even realizing it? If we're not careful, for instance, how easily can our manner of dress maybe can become undignified or maybe even inappropriate. You go to the store sometimes, and I remember I went back home a while back and I was looking for a dress to bring back for my wife. And I just couldn't find one because everything was either too tight and too short. And I had to look. I had to request the help of my niece, my nephew, my brother, my sister, just to find something that would be appropriate. And that's the world that we live in today. I work in San Francisco, and I look around sometimes the way people dress, especially women. And I don't know a lot about, fashion for women, but sometimes they dress like they lost their mind. And see, it's not easy for us to stay away from these things because that's what the world constantly feeds us. That's what they want. That's what Satan wants us to conform to. So we strive to stay away from it. How about speech? Sometimes you hear a brother or sister say, "Excuse my language," and they preface what they're going to say by that statement. See, that should never have to be the case for us. Our language should always be clean and appropriate. We shouldn't have to say, "Excuse my language," and then use speech that doesn't conform to Jehovah's standards. How about jokes, vulgar jokes? There's a guy at work who always wants to tell you the latest joke that he heard. And I have to stop him because to him they're funny, but the jokes that he tells are just not good jokes. But that's all there. It seems like that's the only thing that's funny nowadays, things that are inappropriate for us to listen to. Dancing, the music. How about movies? Nowadays, it's just hard to pick a movie. Because what used to be PG, see, now it's R. It's just not easy anymore. But see, we know what God we are worshiping, we know what his standards are, and we do whatever is necessary to conform to Jehovah's standards, not the standards of the world. Do we have the attitude that a little will not hurt? A sister, we were in the ministry one time, my wife and myself, with another sister, and she was telling about a movie that she had just seen. It was popular, everybody was talking about the movie. But then she says, it wasn't bad. There was no sex in it, but it was a little violent. A little bit of violence in it. And, we're thinking just a little bit of violence. What if somebody tells you there's this much poison in a glass of water that they're handing you? Will you drink it? Of course not. But what if they say, oh, there's only a little bit of poison in it? Will you drink it then? Probably not, right? So it doesn't matter how much or how little of the world's standards are out there. We conform to Jehovah's standards, not those of the world. Note what Jehovah required of the nation of Israel in Leviticus chapter 19. And it really makes the point for us how we should conduct our lives. Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 2. Here, Jehovah speaking to Moses, he says, "Speak to the entire assembly of the Israelites and tell them you should be holy because I, Jehovah your God, am holy." What does it mean to be holy? Literally, to be set apart, to be clean in word and action, to measure up to the divine standard of right and wrong. That's what we do. The world standards are subject to change. As I mentioned, something that was unthinkable 30, 40 years ago, see, now it's acceptable. But see, our standards are relative to Jehovah's standards. Jehovah's standards don't change. So ours shouldn't either. If anything, we strive to get closer and closer to Jehovah's standards, not relative to the world's, because the world's standards, they just keep going down. See, but that is not what we gauge our standards to. We do it to Jehovah's standards. We are hanging on the spirit of the world if we continue to be critical, jealous, if we listen and spread gossip, if we find fault, and if we meddle in things that do not concern us. To the extent that we're making changes when necessary, we show that we want to indeed live in a cleansed earth. If we really want to live in that earth, we must demonstrate that now. In 2 Peter chapter 3, we skipped verse 11 earlier. Let's take 11 now. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 11. That since all these things are to be dissolved in this way, consider what sort of people you ought to be in holy acts of conduct and deeds of godly devotion. Peter was evidently making a statement, a rousing statement, an exclamation. He emphasized that we have to keep close watch and make sure that our conduct is in harmony with Jehovah God's requirements. We have to maintain physical, mental, and moral cleanness. We must abound with deeds that reflect godly devotion, such as those that are in connection with the kingdom preaching work, and we must be zealous in urging others to learn about Jehovah God so that they too can have the opportunity to live in a cleansed earth. So be ready. Jehovah's Day could come at any time. We're constantly being reminded of that. Ask yourself, if Jehovah's Day were to come tomorrow, would I be satisfied with what I have been doing? Are there areas where improvement in physical cleanliness should be made? If we do find areas, guess what? We make those changes. Do we in any way reflect the unclean spirit of the world? If we maybe take stock of our entertainment at home, or maybe movies that we're planning on seeing. If we see they deviate from our standards, we don't watch them, or we don't partake in that kind of entertainment. Are we truly applying ourselves in deeds of godly devotion? If we need to make adjustments, we make those adjustments. We worship a clean God. We want to live in a cleansed earth, so we do whatever is necessary in order to be able to partake of that. Friends, there's no question that the cleansed earth is coming. Others may have doubts, see, but we know it will come. Why? Because Jehovah God has promised it. So make it your resolve to live in a way that shows that you want to, you have the desire to live in that cleansed earth that will soon come, and that you want to live to see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Bingen. We appreciated that discourse. Next week, we'll have another one at the same time, 1 o'clock, and it will be given by Brother Harry Morris from the Oakland West Congregation. His theme is Make Jehovah Your Stronghold. So you're all invited back next week for this discourse. Now we're going to invite up our Watchtower study conductor, and that's Brother O'Doy.
We're glad to see all of you here remaining for our Watchtower study this afternoon. And we'd like to get started by inviting you to stand if you're able to do so, or would like to do so, as we sing one of our most beautiful and heartfelt songs. Song number 46, We Thank You, Jehovah. So let's sing with the feeling of appreciation for Jehovah. Song number 46. Our discussion this afternoon is, as usual, a very important one. This is study article 8 from the February 2019 study edition of the Watchtower, and the title is, Why Express Appreciation? And our theme scripture is based on, it's Colossians 3:15, where it says in part, show yourselves thankful. And so, what can you and I learn from Jehovah, Jesus, and a Samaritan leper about showing appreciation? This article will consider those examples and more. We're going to discuss why it is so important to express gratitude and review some of the ways that you and I can do it. And so we'd like to get started, but first I want to encourage you to comment on the illustrations and comment on the cited scriptures and help us make the application for it. Brother Jason Odo is reading for us this afternoon, so we can get started with paragraph 1, please, Brother Odo.
The 10 men were desperate. They had leprosy, and the future looked bleak. But one day they saw Jesus, the great teacher, from a distance. They had heard that Jesus healed all sorts of sicknesses, and they were convinced that he could heal them too. So they cried out, "Jesus, instructor, have mercy on us." The 10 men were completely cured. No doubt all of them were grateful for Jesus' kindness. One of them, however, did more than feel gratitude. He expressed his appreciation to Jesus. That healed man, a Samaritan, felt compelled to glorify God with a loud voice.
So question 1 says, how did the Samaritan whom Jesus healed show appreciation? Sister Crochet, please, Marla.
Well, he showed appreciation after realizing he was healed. He immediately turned around and fell at Jesus' feet, thanking him, and he felt compelled to glorify God with a loud voice. So this shows that Jesus was deeply grateful. That the man was deeply grateful to Jesus, and also he recognized that Jehovah God was the one that was responsible for the way he was healed.
Yes, thank you very much. And Sister Hewitt, please.
Then what this man did, he glorified God with a loud voice, because we learned others that got healed didn't do that.
Yes, thank you. Brother Cruz, right there, please.
And it helps us to appreciate that, as we see highlighted in the paragraph, that gratitude is, or appreciation is more than just a feeling that we have. It has to be expressed. It has to have actions associated with it.
Yes, thank you. Brother Merrill, please, John.
Yes, and that word appreciation in the financial world is something that increases in value, and it applies also to how we value kindness or good things that we do or that's done for us. We appreciate it. It increases in value.
Yes, indeed. And what was so interesting about the fact that one leper turned back to thank Jesus and glorify Jehovah? Were there 10? Didn't they feel Sister Gladys was doing?
Well, they felt some sort of gratitude, but what was interesting was that the man that turned back was actually a Samaritan, while the rest of them were Jews. So their appreciation was not as deep as the Samaritan.
Okay, so they all felt gratitude. What was different with him? Sister Bingham, please.
His attitude, his appreciation was from his heart. And so it was more appreciation than just simply being thankful.
All right, thank you. Brother Tilahun, please.
Also with his response, there was action too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, actually expressed that. Well, so that word appreciation, what is the thought there in our lesson for us? Sister Otier?
The note brings out that appreciating someone or something means to recognize the value of that person or that thing. Like when you have a fine diamond or a valuable appraised, someone takes time to note what the value is in it for its qualities, for its source, or whatever it may be. In this case, Jehovah gave this person their health back. Nobody could do that. There's a great value in that.
Yes, thank you very much, friends. We appreciate all your fine comments. And so that brings us to paragraphs 2 through 3, because since expressing appreciation is so very important to all of us, why might we fail to show appreciation? Paragraphs 2 through 3, please.
Like the Samaritan, we want to express our gratitude to those who are kind. But on occasion, we may forget to put our feelings of appreciation into words or actions. In this article, we will consider why it is important for us to express appreciation by what we say and do. We will learn from the examples of some Bible characters who were grateful and others who were not. Then we will discuss specific ways in which we can express appreciation.
Yes. So question 2 through 3A says, why might we fail to show appreciation? Why might we fail? Kayla, Tilahun?
Sometimes we don't show our appreciations out loud.
Yes, okay, very good, thank you. Sister Diamara?
And sometimes we just forget.
Mm.
We live in such a busy world, and we may have the greatest intentions, but it slips our mind and we forget, or maybe we're just feeling a little out of sorts that day, and so we forget to put our appreciation into words or actions.
Yes, okay, very good, thank you. And so question B says, what will we consider in this article? We have a number of them, so do give us one at a time so we can get a lot more to comment on that. Let's start with Brother McCall, please.
Says in this article we will consider why is it important to express appreciation.
Express appreciation, Josiah?
Also in what we say and do.
Very good, thank you very much, brothers. And what else? Let's get Jadon, please.
We will consider some Bible characters who were grateful and others who were not.
Very good, thank you, Jadon. And Tomiko, please, Tomiko Warwick.
And lastly, we'll consider discussing specific ways in which we can express appreciation.
Yes, and so let's get started with the first point. Why should we express appreciation? Paragraphs 4 through 5, please, Brother O'Doyle.
Jehovah sets the example for us in expressing appreciation. One way he does this is by rewarding those who please him. And the scriptures encourage us to become imitators of God as beloved children. So a key reason why we should express appreciation is that we want to follow Jehovah's example. Consider another reason why we want to express appreciation to others. Appreciation is like a good meal. It is more enjoyable when shared. When we feel appreciated, we are happy. When we express our appreciation, we make others happy. The person who receives our gratitude knows that his effort to help us or to give us something we need were worthwhile. As a result, the bonds of friendship between us and that person are strengthened.
And so questions 4 and 5 say, why should we express appreciation? Why? Ivan? Crochet?
We should express appreciation is that we want to follow Jehovah's example.
Very good, thank you. And Sister Warwick, please, Vida. No, yes, Vida.
And this is important because Ephesians 5:1, the scriptures encourage us to become imitators of Jehovah as beloved children. So, you know, Jehovah sets many examples for us in expressing appreciation for everything we do and what he does. So by rewarding those who please him, Jehovah is really showing expression. So we too should become followers of him.
Very good, thank you. Sister Joe Maria?
When we think about the word appreciation, it's often saying thank you to someone who's done something nice to us. So we wonder, how can Jehovah appreciate us? And if we look at the definition of appreciation, it shows recognizing value. Jehovah recognizes our value as even though we are dust. And so he shows that appreciation for our value.
Yes, thank you, Sister Joe. And Chase Bingham, please.
And I enjoyed the illustration it gave, how appreciation is like a good meal. It is more enjoyable when shared. And that was a good thing to think about, because usually when we share in doing the things we enjoy, like going out in service or eating with people we love, it really makes us happy and it strengthens the bonds that we have. So the same is applicable here with appreciation. When we share in the kindness that we once received with other people, it can strengthen the bonds that we have with each other.
Very good. Thank you very much, Chase. We appreciate that. Brother Bingham, please.
And I have to comment on that too. Sometimes we're out eating, right? And they get their plate, it's maybe something new or whatever. They take a picture, the next thing you know, they send it to their friends, just so that the friends can see what they're eating. It's just not good enough for them to enjoy it. It's more enjoyable when others know what, they're appreciating. And that's how it should be with appreciation. It's good to be appreciated, but at the same time, it's also more better to also show appreciation to others.
Thank you very much, Brother Bingen. Brother Cunningham in the back.
I enjoy this comment because I do that exact thing. And I have an upload of pictures that sometimes co-workers we share. It's just something that I can't believe it. That looks so good. It's something that makes us feel happy. And then on the other side, those that might have plenty but are stingy people usually are not the happiest people. They're really withdrawn. You're like, well, they have it all, but I don't understand why they're so uptight. It's because they don't express their appreciation, and they don't get that happiness because they don't share or express their feelings towards others. But when we do definitely feel happy.
Very good. Okay. So then, what is the difference between feeling and expression? What does it do? As is mentioned in the paragraph. Brother Marin, John?
Makes others happy. There's more happiness in giving than receiving.
Very good. And what about us when we actually do it? Thank you, Brother Brother Dare, please.
Makes us happy.
Yes, it does. So it's happiness all around, isn't it? Was that good music or? Very good. Okay. So now let's look at the similarities between words of appreciation and apples made of gold. Paragraph 6, please, Brother Odoi.
Our expressions of gratitude are valuable. The Bible states, like apples of gold and silver carvings is a word spoken at the right time. Imagine how beautiful an apple made of gold and set in silver would look. And just think how valuable it would be. How would you feel if you received such a gift? Well, the words of gratitude you express to others can be just as valuable. And consider this fact. An apple made of gold could last indefinitely. Likewise, your expressions of appreciation may be remembered and treasured by the recipient for the rest of his life.
So question 6 says, what are some similarities between words of appreciation and apples made of gold? Austin? Austin Crochet.
Our expressions of gratitude are valuable. The Bible states, like apples of gold in silver carvings, is a word spoken at the right time.
Very good, Austin. We appreciate that. If we were to, I'm sorry, Sister Lynn, please, your thought.
So an apple of gold is beautiful, valuable, and lasts indefinitely. So when we say a word at the right time, the recipient will really appreciate and treasure it for all the rest of his life.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. And where would we put such a work of art if we were to receive it? Apple made of gold and set in silver carving. Brother Mary, Andrew?
We would put it somewhere where we would see it or others would see it. We'd hold it in great value. It would be something we would probably prize as a possession. So that would be something of great value for others to see or something for us to keep forever.
That's right. Thank you very much. And so let's look at those examples. They expressed appreciation. Paragraph 7, please.
Many of God's servants in the past showed gratitude. One of them was David. He deeply appreciated pure worship and expressed his feelings in a tangible way. He contributed a fortune toward the construction of the temple. Asaph's descendants expressed appreciation by writing psalms or songs of praise. In one song, they gave thanks to God and declared their admiration for Jehovah's wondrous works. Clearly, David and Asaph's descendants wanted to show Jehovah how much they appreciated all the blessings they had received from him. Can you think of ways that you can imitate those psalmists?
And let's take a look at Psalm 27, verse 4, please, Brother Odo.
Psalms 27:4. One thing I have asked from Jehovah, it is what I will look for, that I may dwell in the house of Jehovah all the days of my life, to gaze upon the pleasantness of Jehovah and to look with appreciation upon his temple.
Thank you very much, Brother Odo. Appreciate the fine reading for us. Question 7, how did David, as seen as Psalm 27, verse 4, and other writers of Psalms express their appreciation? How did they express their appreciation? Sister Gwen Cunningham, please.
We can see that David really loved Jehovah, and he appreciated all Jehovah's loving kindness that was done towards him. So he contributed a fortune towards the construction of the temple for Jehovah.
Yes, thank you very much. And Isabel? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes. Anybody know how much money David contributed towards the building of the temple? How much in gold, silver? Sister Hewitt?
I don't know, of course, the exact number, but it was millions of dollars.
Yeah.
The value.
Uh-huh. But just take the M and put B there, and you'll be very close to the mark. Yeah. A whole lot. Thank you very much. Now, who else? How did others also, besides David, express their appreciation for Jehovah? Right off, Sister Vaughn, please.
And so,
Yes, in song. Yes, thank you very much. Yes. Can you tell us who some of these people were? And just what they did in the songs. Brother Cunningham, Jamal, please.
Well, Asaph and his descendants gave praise to Jehovah in songs and glorified him.
Yes, they did. And so can we. And so then let's take a look at paragraphs 8 through 9, and let's bring it down to the first century era there.
The Apostle Paul appreciated his brothers and sisters and showed it in the way he talked about them. He always thanked God for them in his private prayers. He also expressed his appreciation when writing to them. In the first 15 verses of Romans 16, Paul mentions 27 fellow Christians by name. Paul specifically recalled that Prisca and Aquila risked their own necks for him, and he described Phoebe as a defender of many, including Paul. He commended those beloved, hard-working brothers and sisters. Paul was aware that his brothers and sisters were imperfect, but in closing his letter to the Romans, he chose to focus on their good qualities. Imagine how encouraged those brothers and sisters must have been to hear Paul's comments read aloud to the congregation. As a result, their bond of friendship with Paul no doubt grew stronger. Do you regularly express appreciation for the good things that members of your congregation say and do?
So questions 8 through 9 says, how did the Apostle Paul show appreciation for his brothers and sisters? And what no doubt was the result? Brother Mark Thompson, please, in the back.
He started out by the way he talked to him, and he thanked God in his private prayers, and he also expressed appreciation where he spoke about 27 fellow Christians by name. That's not an easy thing to do, but to show that he had heartfelt feelings towards them because they risked his necks for him. It was Prisca and Aquila, and they talked about Phoebe, which was he defended many of them. So that was just a start.
Thank you very much, Brother Thompson. Appreciate that. And this was because these 27 that he mentioned were flawless people. Talk about the epitome of perfection, these people. Sister Williams, Christine?
He chose to focus on their good qualities, realizing, he knew that they were imperfect, but he talked about them in a good way, upbuilding, and that was encouraging.
Yes, thank you very much. And Brother Harris, please.
So as we look at that picture, we see, obviously their names have been mentioned. There's the three in the middle there, and they're happy, surprised. But when you look at every other face, they're smiling. They're happy. They gain something from seeing that the Apostle Paul recognized the works of these three individuals. So it's a two-way street, and even beyond that, because it goes to our fellow worshipers.
Yes, thank you. And let's see, Sister Ortie, please. Thank you, Brother Harris. Sister Ortie, your thought.
Yes, and just to add to that, the letter recommended them as well, and so the congregation could help them out, especially what it brought out in the Watchtower about Phoebe, who was just by herself, so where she went, she may not, it was a dangerous place, and so she needed friends, and those letters helped her get lodging and association that kept her safe.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Sister Joe, please, Marietta.
Clearly, by using their name, it shows that they are truly precious. But also, Paul was specific. He said something specifically about each one.
Yes, thank you. And Brother Bingen, please.
So we really see the key here. They knew that Paul was thankful for what they had done for him. But can you imagine when they received that letter where he specifically thanks them and names them by name, and it meant just so much more. So it's one thing for us to, be appreciative, but as we learned earlier, it's even better to express it so that the others really can feel appreciated.
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate that very much. Now, Brother Cruz, your thought?
As we learned earlier, that really helps to strengthen the bonds of friendship and love. So we can really understand why many times the people didn't want to let Paul go. They just fell upon him, kissing him and begging him not to leave them, because he really made close relationships and bonds with them because of the appreciation that he showed for his brothers and sisters.
Yes, indeed. They could have said, oh, the Apostle Paul is going, thank God he's leaving. My goodness, boy, this guy's been at us for... No, they didn't want him to go. So we want to have that same strengthening of bonds between us as brothers and sisters in our congregation. And so now, let's move on to paragraph 10. And let's look at the perfect example of Jesus Christ, how he expressed appreciation for his followers.
In his messages to certain congregations of Asia Minor, Jesus expressed appreciation for the work his followers did. For example, he began his message to the congregation in Thyatira by saying, I know your deeds, and your love and faith and ministry and endurance, and that your deeds of late are more than those you did at first. Jesus not only mentioned their increased activity, but also commended them for the qualities that motivated their good deeds. Although Jesus needed to counsel some in Thyatira, he still began and ended his message with encouragement. Think of the authority Jesus has as head of all the congregations. He does not have to thank us for the work we do for him. Even so, he makes a point of expressing appreciation. What an excellent example he sets for elders.
This is fancy. And Leo, we have a brother Justin. That's wonderful. So in a village, on a Sunday morning, a village in Africa, suddenly people heard a loud voice of a child screaming, Mama Nakuva, Mama Nakuva. Mother, I am dying. Mother, I'm dying. So of course everybody in an uproar. They run to see what's happening. It's a child being murdered. So as they get there, imagine what they see.